Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we will be doing an update to my Sorcerer tank build for update 30 Blackwood. For this Sorc tank setup, I was really wanting to help make tanking easier for anyone who was going to start playing a tank. For me, there are a couple things that can make you a very successful as a tank. Besides the basics of blocking, taunting, and staying alive, which are still very important, the thing I believe that can make your group excel is the ability to control a group of adds or the ability to stack adds together. To help with this, I use a 1-2 punch set combo. What I mean by this is, if you take damage, you will deal damage. Then, when you deal damage, you will stun the enemies in place. The nice part about this setup is, as a tank, you always will be taking damage as long as you have the aggro. That way we can control our add pulls a little better now, so that the DPS in our group can now focus in one spot instead of all over the place. Now, I also wanted to strengthen some of our passives a little more as well. As a sorcerer, we have a lot of passives that help lower the cost of our abilities. This is really helpful for sustaining as a tank. However, the one passive I really wanted to look at was lowering the cost of our ultimate, so I decided to lower the cost even further. Now, if you would like to learn more about this low cost electrifying stun tank, I will be going over the stats on the build, what skills I like to use, what kind of passives are used on the build, what kind of gear makes this build tick, and last, what is the CP setup for my current level. All this is coming up next. So, starting off into our character sheet. Our max magicka is sitting at 18,900 with a max health at 46,300 with max stam at 24,400. Recoveries there can go up a little bit further as long as we pop a potion and use one of our abilities on our back bar here. Our recovery on the build is at magicka is 1,700 with health recovery at 1,000 and stam recovery at 1,200, which is all really quite nice. Now for resistance, we want to use our ability on our front bar to buff it up, which most of our resistance is best resistance is going to be on our front bar, with spell resistance at 31,300 and physical resistance at 30,600. On the back bar, it dips a little bit below that. As you can see here, we're sitting at spell resistance at 26,200 with physical at 25,500. For attributes on this build, I want 64 points into health. Now, you don't necessarily need 46,000 points into health because we actually don't really have a lot of abilities stacked based off of our max health, but it's still quite nice to make us a lot more survivable if you really need it. And if you find yourself that you're surviving pretty easy, you can sit there and change resources around. We could put more points into magicka to max out our magicka a little bit more. We could put even more into stam to have a lot more for cost, a lot more for blocking. Just remember, try to keep stam above magicka because stam is our major resource for blocking, and we want to use that when we pop synergies that are based off of our max resource, either being magicka or stam. We want to make sure we have more stam. Now for the boon that we're using here, or Mundstone, we are using the lady just to increase our spell and physical resistance by 2,700. I just like my resistance a little bit closer to cap, that way I know I'm getting as much mitigation from blocking as possible. However, if you don't want the lady, good other options is the tower, which gives you more max health. Again, if you have a ton of health the way it is, you can put things into like max magicka, max stam if you want to, magicka recovery, health recovery if you really wanted to. Stam recovery is for like the really certain people, because on a tank, if you're holding block, your stam actually does not recover, so stam recovery is kind of the questionable slot. If you tend to be one that doesn't actually hold block too often and decide to dodge roll for the advanced tanks out there, then stam recovery would be really good for you there. Now, going over into the skills, starting off on our front bar. Before we get into it, just want to let you all know that the skills that I have on my ability bar here does not mean that they have to be in this order. Like our Boundless Storm here can be as a B button, it can be right bumper, it can be Y, left bumper, it can be anywhere on that ability bar there. However, certain skills are on this bar for certain reasons, so we'll find out which ones are on here for certain reasons later on in the passives. So let's start off with our first ability. This is found in Storm Calling. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as lightning form. We then morph it to Boundless Storms. This is a 5-meter radius around us that will end up dealing some shock damage, only about 500 every 1 second for the 23-second duration. Now the main reason we actually want to use this ability is because we get major resolve from this, which is giving our major buff up for resistance, almost about 6,000 physical and spell resistance. On top of it too, a nice little additive thing that we get from this is when we cast this ability, we actually get major expedition for 4 seconds, which makes us move faster by 30%. Next ability we have is Down in the One-Handed Shield skill line. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as Low Slash, we then morph it to Deep Slash. This is a 6-meter radius, and how this gets applied is we'll deal about 4,000 physical damage to the enemy that we end up hitting with this, but in 6 meters from that enemy will actually reduce the movement speed of all the enemies hit by 30% for 4 seconds, which is a really nice thing to kind of slow down the enemies so we can group them a little bit better. But then the main reason we actually want to use this is because we actually apply Minor Main to them, which reduces their damage done by 5% for 12 seconds, and that's for every single one that's hit. So the better that we stack adds and apply this, the better it is going to be for our group, because they're not going to do as much damage, so it makes it a lot easier for our DPS and healer to survive as long as us. Now next ability we have is all the way down into the Fighters Guild skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as Silver Bolt, we then morph it to Silver Leash. This ends up dealing some physical damage, 3,000, and ends up reducing the movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds on the target that we hit. But the main reason we use this is because, as it says, we fire a bolt that hooks and pulls an enemy to us. So this is our main pull. So these are for like your mages out at a distance, it's for your archers at a distance to kind of pull them in to group them a little bit easier. Now next ability we have is all the way back up into the Daedric Summoning skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts as Summon Unstable Familiar, we then morphed it to Summon Unstable Clanfear. So this Clanfear walks around headbutting, whipping its tail, dealing 800 physical damage every second. But the main reason we actually want to use this is because once it's summoned, the Clanfear kind of always stays active unless killed, but we can cast the ability again for 3,900 magicka to heal us for 14,800 health, and a Clanfear for 7,400. So this is what you want to kind of use to keep your Clanfear alive, but this is also to keep you alive. It's for those, oh snap, we're gonna die moments out there that we really need to get, you know, make sure that we stay alive as a tank, because if we die, we probably lose aggro, and then aggro goes off of our DPS and might end up being a squad wipe there. So the nice thing is the Clanfear remains on us until it's killed or unsummoned. So make sure to try to keep your Clanfear up. Use this for those really oh snap situations. So next ability we have is down in the One-Handed Shield skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as Puncture, we then morph it to Pierce Armor. This will deal 2,700 physical damage, and this will taunt enemies to attack us for 15 seconds. This is really important because this is going to be our main taunt ability, and this is what we want to always taunt on enemies, because when we use it, we inflict Minor Breach and Major Breach, which reduces the enemy's physical and spell resistance by 2,900. That is for Minor Breach there, and 5,900 is Major Breach. So basically in total, if we just, let's say, round those numbers up to the clearest, the closest 100 I should say, we're at 3,000 there and about 6,000, so 9,000. Why is this important? The reason why this is important, because in PVE dungeons, every enemy in the dungeon that you face has about roughly 18,200 physical and spell resistance. The lower we get that resistance number, the stronger our DPS are gonna hit. So if you think about it, 18,000 is about half, or cut by 9,000 is about half, so we're reducing the enemy's resistance by half amount, and that's not with other enchantments proccing off and things that can happen. So this is why it's very important to use this one, especially on the main boss, is because the lower you're getting that health, faster you're going to burn things for your group, or your DPS are going to help you burn things so you don't have to tank as long either, making it a lot easier for you. Now for the icon of this, we're going to just switch our guy here so that way we can just kind of unsummon him real quick, and I'll show you the icon. So we're going to taunt him real quick. Now the icon on there is the very last icon. It's the one with the black square with the shield that's broken in half. That lets you know that you have taunt. The other two is telling you got minor breach and major breach on the target. So just letting you guys know that's where it is. And I'll try to highlight it too as well. Now, for our ultimate on this bar, we are all the way down into the Sigic order. It starts off as Undo, we then morph it to Temporal Guard. This will reset our health, magic, and stam and where we were 4 seconds ago. So if you had a lot of health 4 seconds ago and you're almost dead and you have an ultimate and don't have enough magicka to pop your oh snap button, then you pop this and then you back up to where you were, and you'll probably be at full health and magicka again if you were at that point, is kind of what that means. But we mostly actually want to use this because we actually gain minor protection, which reduces the damage that we take by 5%. So that definitely helps us make us more tankier and more survivable with that as well. Now over onto the back bar. First ability we have here is all the way back up into Daedric Summoning. It is the fourth ability to unlock, starts off as Conjure Ward. We then morph it to Empowering Ward. This is a 20-meter radius that lasts for 10 seconds. What this does, it gives us and our pet a damage shield of 5,800 damage for 10 seconds. And can only be capped at 50% of our max health. So the higher health that we have, the stronger the shield is going to be. But the main reason we actually want to use this is because when we cast it, we give us and our group members Minor Intellect, which increases our magicka recovery by 15% for 10 seconds. So in a strong magicka base group, this is really helpful to keep up the recoveries. But then again, even for some classes out there too, in some builds out there, they do use some magic in their builds, so it actually does help to have recovery for anything basically. Next ability we have is in the Dark Magic skill line. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as Encase, we then morph it to Restraining Prison. This is an 18 by 6 meter radius, so what that means is it's 6 meters wide by 18 meters deep, so basically a rectangle shape that lasts for 4 seconds. The main reason we actually use this is for a good immobilizing enemies in front of us for 6 seconds. So basically what that means is these dark crystals kind of come out of the ground, kind of like a Dragonite's Talons is basically what this is, but it's in crystal form. That will hold enemies in place, which is really nice so they're not moving around. And if we do not immobilize any enemies when we cast it, we actually get 2,300 magicka back, so a good chunk of the majority that we use to cast it. Now the nice bonus thing on this is when we do hit an enemy, we gain Major Vitality, which increases our healing received by 16% for 2 seconds, plus an additional second for every enemy in the area up to 6. So in total we can have 8 seconds of Major Vitality cast on us, which is really nice for when we use our oh snap we're gonna die heal, and for healers out there healing us. Next ability we have is down into the Destruction Staff skill line. It is the second ability to unlock, starts off as Wall of Elements, we then morph it to Elemental Blockade. This again is an 18 by 12 meters, so 12 meters wide by 18 meters deep. That will deal 600 magicka damage, which we don't really care too much about the magicka damage behind this for every second. But for us, we're going to go look at the Blockade of Storms, because that's what we have. We have a lightning staff on this build. And it sets concussed enemies off balance. Now, this is very important because we'll talk about this later in the build under our sets. Will definitely help us out with this. So next ability is the Clan Fear from the Daedric Summoning skill line. Now why is it on both bars, Nathan? The reason why it's on both bars is because if you don't have it slotted on both bars, when you actually switch, let's say from one bar to the next, the Clanfear gets unsummoned, and when it's unsummoned, then you got to sit there and go like so to end up getting cast again. So you got to spend some time recasting it, and that's why we particularly want it on both bars. Next ability we have is all the way down into the Undaunted skill line. It is a third ability to unlock, starts off as Inner Fire. We then morph it to Inner Beast. This will deal 2,500 physical damage and taunt enemies to attack us for 15 seconds. Now this part is our range taunt because we can use this up to, I think it's like 28 meters is what it is, or 22 meters. It's a really good distance that you can sit there and taunt enemies to attack you, and this is very important, especially for those archers and mages that tend to sit at a distance. I mean, we get the little additive bonus that enemies take 5% more damage from our attacks while it's active, but the main reason we also like to use it too is allies can activate a synergy called Radiant that deals 4,700 magic damage to them over 3 seconds, and then an additional 5,000 magic damage to them and other nearby enemies on the synergy cast there. Granted, it's only a 50% chance with this morph to actually activate it, but I had a lot of high magic cost ability, so I went with the stam morph of this one. Now for the ultimate on this one, we are in the Assault skill line. It starts off as Warhorn, we then morphed it to Aggressive Warhorn. This one only costs, as you can see, down to 170 ultimate. We'll go later on in the passives to figure out why this ultimate is only that low. But the nice part about this is it gives max magicka and max stam by 10% for you and your group members for 30 seconds who are within 20 meters, so that's a really nice thing. But the nice thing for our DPS is we give them Major Force, which increases their critical damage by 20%. So if our DPS have a good crit chance, more likely they'll end up critting a lot more often, and by critting more often, they'll actually do a lot more damage by 20% with this active. So this is why it's really nice to have Warhorn kind of low, because we have could have more uptime with it. And just remember, it's for 10 seconds, and that is the first 10 seconds of the ability cast, not like the last 10 or something like that. It's the first 10, just keep that in mind. Now, going over the passives for the build. Yeah, for the passives, I'm just gonna kind of go over key passives that will help you out the most. I still highly recommend going through all of these and reading how they help, since I won't be going over them all. We're going to start with Dark Magic, since it's at the top here. We have Unholy Knowledge, which reduces our health, magic, and stam costs of our abilities by 6%. Great for better sustain on our tank. Next we have Persistence, which, you know, reduces the cost of our next health, magicka, or stam ability cast after a block, after we block an attack, which is also another great thing for sustaining here as well. And then we have Exploitation, which can definitely help the group spell critical by 13-14 for 20 seconds after we use dark magic ability. You know, definitely a great thing to increase their crit chance for a magicka based DPS group. Now going into Daedric Summoning, the one that I like here is the Power Stone, which we talked about earlier with the Warhorn being low. This reduces the cost of ultimate by 15%. You know, like I said, definitely great for the Warhorn. Allows us to maybe have more uptime with the Major Force for the group for better DPS overall. Then we got Daedric Protection here, which gives us 20% more stam and health recovery when we have an ability slotted from this skill line. And then last is Expert Summoner, which gives us an increase of max health by 8% when we have a pet active. And the nice part about this is our Clanfear works great for both of these. So from Daedric Protection and Expert Summoner, because Clanfear is from the skill line, and Clanfear is a pet and it stays active at all times unless killed or unsummoned. So that's kind of why we also like to have it on both bars. Now for Storm Calling, this one here I would probably say Capacitator. Just with the magicka recovery, there is a, you know, great thing to make sure we can have our O Snap we're gonna die heal type thing. We have a lot of magic cost abilities, so it's really nice to have good magic recovery on this build. Now to the one-handed shield skill line, we got Fortress, which mostly here is reduce the cost of block, and pretty much, you know, so that way we're allowed to block for longer periods of time. Next I would say is Sword and Board. The amount of damage we can block by 20% definitely makes it so we can not take as much, so we can survive a lot better from that. And then we got Deflective Bolts here. This allows us to block better against mages and archers. Projectiles is magical items, and ranged is archers there. Nice thing about this is this does add with Sword and Board, so technically against those type of fighters versus your archers and mages, you technically got about roughly a 34% damage mitigation from them. Not exactly that, but you know, something roughly about that. Then down into the Destruction Staff skill line, the one that we're mostly looking at is Elemental Focus here. Just a chance to apply the elemental status effect by 100%. So basically we're gonna apply the lightning, and for the lightning one it's off balance for those that don't know. Now for armor, we're gonna start with light armor here. I'm just kind of capital. Basically we have more magicka recovery in this type of skill line. We have reduced cost of magicka abilities, there's spell critical, there's spell penetration, along with other bonuses and penalties along with it. Just remember, penalties are here, bonuses are here that you get for wearing light armor. For medium armor, mostly this will give us, you know, more stamina recovery. We can reduce the cost of our stamina abilities. There's weapon critical here, there's weapon damage and other bonuses. That's right, we only get bonuses. Medium armor does not have any penalties, so that's a nice thing about medium armor. For heavy armor here, basically heavy armor will give us more resistances, so the more heavy armor you're wearing, the better resistance you'll have. You got health recovery, there's resources restored when you take damage, max health, along with other bonuses and penalties. So we have penalties here, bonuses here, read into them. Great thing. Fighters Guild, we have intimidating presence, nice for questing purposes, but the nice thing here is we want to reduce the cost of our Fighters Guild abilities by 15%, because when you're pulling things in, it's really nice to have a low stam cost on that, because if you don't, it can be kind of expensive to pull people in. So there's other options that we'll talk about later. We got, you know, we got Banish of the Wicked. If we do end up somehow killing somebody, we get 3 ultimate. It's always nice to get ultimate on the build. Skill tracker ends up letting us deal 20% more damage, because Silver Leash does do damage, so it's nice to do damage to undead, Daedra, and werewolves. And yes, undead does consider vampires as well, so, and there's a lot of them in PVE dungeons, so it's definitely a nice thing to have for that. Mages Guild, I just Persuasive Wills for questing. Sigic Order, since we have one, we have Concentrated Barrier, so this allows us to have a damage shield if we have an ability slotted in Sigic Order, so a nice little thing to get a little bit bigger damage shields as well. If the damage shield breaks, we gotta not block for 10 seconds is what bracing means. So let go, block for 10 seconds, pop it at your 11th second, you should have a damage shield back up. Undaunted, we have Undaunted Command, so activating synergies, which take the synergies. If you see them pop up, use your synergies, because you'll get 1,800 health back, 943 stand back, and 759 magicka back, which is all really nice to help you sustain. Undaunted Metal here, this increases our max health, stamina, and magicka by 2% per type of armor. So if we're at least wearing 1 heavy, 1 medium, and 1 light, we get the max of 6 bonuses what we have. If you, let's say, have heavy and medium, then you only get 4. If you are all heavy, then you'll be at 2%. Assault here, continuous attacks just for pretty much moving around, because we get major gallop at all times. The race we are running on the build is the Imperial. There's passives that we'll talk about here in a little bit that I really like about the Imperial, but for tanking wise, what would probably be the best? A lot of people as tanks, they use Imperials, they use Nords, they use Argonians, but what is the best? Technically for me, whatever kind of works for you. That's how I look at it. It's whatever allows you to get the task done. If you're min-maxing, then yeah, you probably will want the whole Nord or Argonian or Imperial, because those will probably be a little bit better for your races. But in all case, kind of, I say run what you feel like running. It doesn't need to be this way, but I'm just gonna let you know that if you do not run an Imperial on this build, because I know it's, you gotta buy them if you don't have them, just letting you know some of your stats will be different by a little bit, just because we got different passives, because Imperials have Tough, which increases max health by 2000, Imperial Metal, which increases your stand by 2000, and the one passive I really like about it, and is definitely helping with a bunch of our stuff, is Red Diamond here, which reduces the cost of all of our abilities by 6%. So yes, that is health abilities we use, that's stam abilities we use, that's magicka abilities we use, and even ultimate. So yes, that is why my ultimate's a little bit lower, is Red Diamond passive, Power Stone passive, and then there's something else that even gets it even lower yet to where it's at. Next passive we have is Alchemy, is medicinal use, which using a potion will last 30% longer. So what this is the effects when we use a potion at base, if we don't have medicinal use, they only last for 36 seconds. With the potion cools down being 45 seconds, so you got like a 9-gap window of your potions are, you know, you're not getting the effects. By having this up, your potion effects last for 47 seconds with a 45-second cooldown, so you have 100% uptime with a 2-second window after the fact of you ready to pop a potion, to pop it again, to pretty much keep your effects on your potions running. So definitely very important, make sure to get medicinal use. Then in provisioning, I'm running Gourmet here just to add 20 minutes to the duration of any eaten food. That way my food lasts longer for the build. I mean, if you want to decide all of a sudden run a drink to have more recoveries, then you use Consier, or if you like a drink, doesn't have to be recovery, just any type of drink. If you're running that, then use Consier. 3 out of 3 here will give you 20 minutes on that as well. Now, going over the stuff we're wearing, or gears that we are running, starting with slottable items. So for food, right now I have the Crown Fortified Meal going. This is just increase our max health, magic, and stam for 2.5 hours. Yes, I got some champion points that allow us to have the effects last almost basically about like 3 hours. But I mean, the superior food you could run is Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This can get expensive, so either in building it or buying it. So just letting you know, the only difference is, yes, you get a little bit more health, you get a little bit more stamina magicka, and yes, you get about 462 health recovery. So on the build, technically I can get up to 1400 health recovery on the build if I really wanted to, but it's not needed. Yes, you could probably run a blue food with the build because you have a lot of health, because if we take, you know, 4400 health away from our 46,000, we're sitting still at 42k health unbuffed, so we got quite a bit. So yes, if you want to, you can even run blue food on this build. For potions, I'm just running Crown Tri Restoration potions just to give us health, magic, and stand back. It's always nice to keep up resources, especially as a tank, because you're gonna need them. This also increases our recoveries, giving us major fortitude, major intellect, and major endurance. So that increases our health, magic, and stamina recovery by 30% for 47.3 seconds. Yes, that's where medicinal use comes in right there, just making sure you guys know that. So, and it doesn't have to be Crown. I just get them in daily login drops after so much, you know, you get quite a bit. But if you really want to, you could craft your own tripods, or if you really want to, I would highly recommend make sure to get at least like something to give you health back or give you magicka or stam, you know. Run some type of potion is always better than nothing. Now for weapons, on our front bar for the set, we are running Akaviri dragonguard. Right now I have the weakening enchantment to reduce target's weapon damage and spell damage by 160 for 5 seconds, just to kind of make my group, when this does proc off, if I'm hitting something with this, that if it does proc, you know, make my group survive a little bit easier. I do have the defending trait on the weapon here. However, you do not need to run defending if you feel like, you know, close to cap at 33,000 is too much resistance and you prefer more like, say, 26,000 or 27,000 resistance, then you can run something else. I mean, another trait we have is decisive, which gives us ultimate generation. Basically, whenever we gain ultimate, we have like, I think it's like a 25% on one-handed weapons to gain an additional one. So if you want to go that way, you can. There's charge if you want to apply status effects. So if you want to like run a lightning enchantment on this, you better chance to apply lightning effects on enemies, you can run that. I wouldn't recommend infuse on this one just because it's one-handed, so a lot of your enchantments are already cut in half. So yeah, there's some options there. So for Akaviri dragonguard, this gives us 124 magic recovery for 2 pieces, 4% healing taken, which those 2 are really nice for a tank. 1100 max health, another good thing for a tank, and we have 152 health recovery. I mean, it's not a necessarily thing to have as a tank, but it's still always a very good thing, kind of like a nice little bonus thing. But here is where we reduce the cost of our ultimate abilities by 15%. So it's 15 for using the power stone for a sorcerer, 6% for being an imperial, and now an additional 15% for running Akaviri dragonguard. Now, does this mean you have to run it? No, you don't have to run it. I can see if you feel like, let's say, our Warhorn's down to 190. If we take off Akaviri dragonguard, what other sets would I recommend? You got, you know, if you are big into trials and want to do trials and, you know, you have the trial, I'd say go into Sunspire and get Claw of Yolocren, because that one's a great one where we reduce our damage taken from dungeon trials and arena monsters, which is really nice for survivability. We get it where that one also gives you, when you taunt an enemy, you give your group you give your group basically weapon and spell damage for a brief moment that you can reapply every 8 seconds, and taunts lasts for 15. So yeah, you got a good buffer there to apply that. You can run Ebon, you can run, you know, which gives you and your group a ton of health. You can run Plague Doctor if you really want to have a ton of health. I mean, you got options. That's not that you have to run this. This is just my idea of kind of a sorcerer tank, and this is what I kind of like running. Shield, we want max damage enchantment on this because it's a little bit bigger piece. Sturdy trait because reduce the cost of blocking, so we don't have, you know, we don't burn up our stam pool as fast with this, so that's kind of why I like that. If you want to, you can do a reinforced trait on this one. If you really like to, you could go infuse just to give yourself more stam if you really want to on this bar. However, just remember, we don't have a stam enchantment on the back bar, so it's only when you're on this bar that you'll get more stam. So if you do infuse, just remember, it's only on this bar that you get it. On the back bar, we are running a lightning staff with crusher enchantment to reduce target's physical and spell resistance by 1,400. So if we kind of add that with our main taunt, basically we're if this procs off at the same time, basically we're reducing target's resistance by basically 10,000, which is really huge. Yes, I do have the charge trait on this one. You probably would want to run infuse, don't run charge. I mean, charge works, but infuse is a lot better because you got a better chance you're going to increase that crusher enchantment, so you're going to actually reduce resistance a lot better. Charge is just something I kind of had for the moment, so that's what I went with. Now for monster helm here, we have Sellistex with basically all on our bodies. We're gonna have like the head, chest, and legs are all of our bigger pieces, so we're gonna have max stam enchantment on that. And then for our smaller pieces, which is like shoulders, waist, hands, and feet, we want magic enchantment on that just to kind of balance things out. And same kind of with the traits, with all like the feet, the hands, the waist, and shoulder, we want all sturdy. Chest and legs, we end up going reinforced because they're a lot bigger pieces and we get a little bit more armor value out of them. And then the head, we went infused. I mean, technically, if you really want to, you could go infused on the legs if you really wanted to, and then go reinforced on the head, but I just like the head being infused is what I like. So infused just increase it, you know, max stam there. Now, nice part about Sellistex is we get more stam, so another nice bonus about Sellistex. Nice part is when we deal damage, we create an earthquake under the enemy after 1.5 seconds, dealing 2,600 physical damage, which is okay. And then all the enemies that are near us within a 4-meter radius will be stunned for 3 seconds, and this can happen once every 6 seconds. And we don't care that if it's scaled off of our weapon or spell damage because we don't really got a ton of that anyways. So this is kind of like a hard crowd control ability, basically, is what this is. So holding enemies down, so when we restraining prison, when we pop that, enemies are holding place, and then if we, since that kind of does damage, then we wait basically 1.5 seconds, then we can pop everybody basically on the floor. But we actually don't have to really cast anything because going into our next set right here for the chest and all of our other pieces, we have Livewire, which Livewire gives us 4% healing taken. Nice for when a healer heals us, we're getting more health out of that even when we self-heal ourselves. Max health, good for a tank, healing taken again. And then 5-piece is when we take damage, we apply concussion to the enemy within 8 meters, and we heal for 967 health for each enemy hit, and this can occur once every 6 seconds. So both of these are on like a 6-second timer, which is really, really nice and plays out very well in my opinion. Now, like I was talking about earlier, if you're now jumping into this portion of the video, concussion. So we are running a lightning staff, and now we'll go back over into that skill and we'll go talk about it. I think I gotta go down into, yep, we're gonna just go into here. So with the lightning staff, set concussed enemies off balance, which Livewire gets enemies concussed. We drop our elemental blockade, or pretty much elemental blockade of storms is what it is. We drop that down after or before, kind of make sure it's up. When it's up, the enemies that get hit by our Livewire are then set off balance. Now, why is off balance very important? Now, the reason for that is because off balance, what it does for our group is, let's say a DPS is heavy attacking, and it's only when you're heavy attacking. When you heavy attack an enemy who is off balance, you get double your resources back. So definitely helps get your resources back when you really, really need it, especially when you've been burning through them, even for us. On top of it too, you deal more damage with that heavy attack if the enemy is also off balance, so it's really, really nice to kind of help sustain our group a little bit if they're doing a heavy attack and help with a little bit of damage output. I mean, do you have to run a lightning? No, if you want to, you can do frost, you can do fire, but I just like the storm because I feel like off balance is pretty nice. If we really want to immobilize people, we can use a frost, but we already got our restraining prison for that immobilization anyways. Let's go back into our inventory. Like I said earlier, shoulders, waist, hands, and feet will have max magicka with sturdy trait, and legs will have reinforced trait. Now on the jewelry, we are running 1 stam enchantment tier with healthy trait on all of them, and magicka recovery on the back bar. Yes, if you want to, you can put this as a magicka recovery. That's up to you. I like to put a little bit of stam just to kind of have a little bit bigger stam pool. Now, other options for monster helms, I mean, there's a ton. You don't have to run Sellistex. Let's say if you don't like, let's say, Silver Leash, if you're not good at pulling, a set I would recommend, let's go into collections here, regular dungeon. The one I would recommend then is running going into Spindle Clutch and getting Swarm Mothers. This is in Spindle Clutch 1, just FYI, because this will give you both resources, stam and magicka, which is really good. But when you block an attack from an enemy that is 8 to 22 meters away from you, you actually pull the enemy to you, and it can happen once every second. So if you're not really good at using Silver Leash and pulling people towards you, this is a really good way of getting those people pulled. However, for me, I like to pull people in because I feel like I have more control that way. I guess I've never been really good with Swarm Mothers, so things like that. Another good option if you want to, you know. Actually, we'll go talk about skills if you end up doing that, because that's always fun. Let's talk about that. So if we end up doing that and you don't want Silver Leash on your board, one I would recommend still yet is down into the Fighters Guild skill line. It starts off as Circle Protection, it then will be morphed into Turn Evil. Now why Turn Evil is because the nice part about this is it gives you minor protection and minor endurance, so it reduces your damage taken by 5%, also increases your stam recovery by 15%, so you'd have 15% recovery for stam here. And then in our back bar we have Empower and Ward for 15% for magic recovery, so you kind of get both major, you get your major resources for recovery. Now what Turn Evil does is any enemy caught in that 5-meter radius around you will be feared for 5 seconds when it's all the way up, which is a really strong fear. I mean, that's a long time, 5 seconds, and that's where, you know, I could sit there, pull enemies in. But for you, if you're now using Swarm Mothers, hopefully during that time you're now, you know, using Inner Beast and taunting those adds at a distance during that time, and then hopefully then they'll start targeting you, you hold block, and then you pull them all in to get them all nice to you. It's kind of a combo setup I do. Now if you do realize that you have minor protection here, and then on our front bar we also have Temporal Guard, which gives us minor protection, so I would change that out to our one-handed shield skill line. We have Shield Wall. I'd then morph it to Spell Wall. That's just my preference. The other morph just reduces the cost of our one-handed shield abilities, which Pierce Armor for 1,000 is pretty low, and then Deep Slash for 2,200 is also pretty low in my opinion. So, and why Spell Wall over that one? Because Spell Wall will then automatically block projectiles, because if we read this automatically blocks all attacks at no cost for 5 seconds. It doesn't mean projectiles, it just means like melee attacks is what this is. So that's why we use Spell Projectile or Spell Wall, is because it also blocks arrows, it blocks magic projectiles at you. I've even seen boss fights too where I used it and the boss was, let's say, channeling ability with like Gatling gun, just boom 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 boom. I watched that thing literally bounce right back at that boss, which is all really, really nice. And look at this, for a low cost of ultimate of only 91. So that would be kind of what I do. Other monster sets if you want to, especially for dungeon, we have Blood Spawn if you want to, you know, up your physical and spell resistance, you know, have a 6% chance to get 13 more ultimate, or right off the bat. Excuse me on that, sorry about that. You know, you got things from Vollenfeld. If you're running with a stam-based DPS group, this is great for reducing physical resistance even further for your group as well. There's even a DLC dungeon. Let's go all the way up into Imperial City Prison. You got Lord Warden. If you want to, you can even go into Runes of Mazatun, that's the one. If you just want to straight up have major resolve at all times, that way we can open up a slot for something. If you do end up doing Mighty Chudon, because it's going to give you armor, max health, and major resolve, so you don't have to cast it, will save you on resources. Then for skills on that one, if you end up going that route, I would then go into Daedric Summoning, and then you can go even, let's say, Bound Aegis here, which starts as Bound Armor, 5th ability to lock, Bound Aegis. Basically, if you cast this, you got a 39% chance for block mitigation, or you got a 39% more block mitigation for 3 seconds, just to say. We get more max magicka by 7%, and this one gives us minor resolve. For just being slotted, it gives us max magicka and minor resolve, so that way we can hit cap, that way you can run a different stone if you want to. There's options. So we're just kind of giving you guys all those options that you can run on this build. Champion point system. At level 100, 1,139. And the craft here, this is kind of whatever you guys kind of feel like it. We got 50 here for 10% increased gold gain from stuff. We got a 50% gold gain from safe boxes, 10% cost to way shrine. So when we travel to way shrine, you know, if we want to recall one, it's now 10% less. This is nice for reducing weapon enchantments by 50%, like them burning down. They go 50% slower. This is nice to get better items from treasure chest. We got reduced fall damage taking, which is always really nice. Rationer here, 30 more minutes. So yeah, the 20 with the 30, that's why our food basically lasts almost 3 hours. That way we can save some money on that. And then liquid efficiency just gives us a, you know, 10% chance not to burn up a potion, was always nice. And then I got like 45 here just to increase my movement speed by 18% when I'm out of combat, just to kind of make things go a little bit faster. And then in Wayfarer here, we got 20 points into Tireless Discipline to give us 520 max stam. We got 20 into Quick Recovery for 2% more healing taken. Preparation for 10% damage reduction from non-player attacks, so basically great for PVE content is Preparation. We got Elemental Aegis for 2% damage reduction from Magic, Flame, Frost, and Shock damage, and then on the other side is Hardy for reduction from physical poison, disease, and bleed damage. 50 points into Duelist rebuff just to reduce damage taken from single target attacks by 10%. Enduring Resolve, same thing of 10% from damage over time effects or damage over time attacks. And then Unassailable, same thing, 10% from area of effects. And then 50 here for increasing our spell and physical resistance by 1,900 when we equipped a shield or frost staff. So we got shield on the front bar, that's why our resistance higher there. And there's 20 for Eldritch Insight for 520 max magicka. And then into this one, we got 10 into Piercing just for more offensive penetration. Right now I got 20 into Battle Mastery for a 30% increased chance for martial status effect. I should actually probably put that actually over into Flawless Ritual, since we are more magicka based and we want to actually apply the off balance status effect as much as we can. So that would probably be better, is to put it over here first. Now I highly recommend when you go through this, just start off by putting 10 points into this. You'll have to put 10 points into this first and then try to get these. I'd probably say get these slottables, bulk work, unassailable, enduring resolve, and duelist rebuff. I mean, try to get some points in there just to get them slotted, because I mean the main one that you'll really like is this one, Preparation, just because that's a lot of taking non-damage from non-player attacks. So from PvE content, reducing their damage done to you will help you survive a lot easier. And then, you know, make sure to get the rest of these stuff that I've shown as well. Now over into the Red Tree of Fitness, we got 50 points into Boundless Vitality for 1,400 max health. That's why our health is really high. Ironclad for another 1,700 armor. Rejuvenate for 150 health, magic, and stamina recovery. Really nice to keep those recoveries up as a tank. We have 20 into Defiance to reduce the cost of Break Free. That way we don't burn so much stam. 30 points into Tumbling, so if we end up using a roll dodge, we don't burn up our stam either. And then we got 50 points into Expert Evasion, so that way the first roll dodge we use within the first 30 seconds is absolutely free. If we end up using it within the 30 seconds, then it ends up costing something. So if you use it once every 30 seconds, great, you're not going to use any stam when you roll dodge. Mystic Tenacity, we got a 25% reduction from elemental status effects. Hero's Vigor gives us now more, you know, gives us more max health here again. So a lot of health, that's why the build has a lot of health. We have Hasty, just increase our movement speed. 10 into Tireless Guardian for 20% or 20 block cost reduction, so 20 points of stam. And then Fortification, block 4% more, 1 blocking. We end up blocking more damage. And then I just got 6 points into Nimble Protection. And this one I would highly recommend probably getting Fortification first, because blocking you're gonna reduce a lot of damage you take, and that's gonna help you actually survive. So those that don't know it, this is a really good thing to get. And then just probably get, you know, then I get Boundless Vitality and Ironclad and Rejuvenation. Is don't matter what order, just kind of get that and then slowly work your way into a bunch of these. Yes, if we want to, we could actually do a damage shield, because we do have a damage shield ability. So if we really want to increase the damage shield for us, that's even applied on our Temporal Guard, you can go up in here. So then you probably won't need Expert Evasion, or let's say armor. You're gonna have to drop something because it's a slottable. So just FYI. So that will be it for our Sorc tank for Blackwood. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, you can hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free for you. If you want to follow along and stay up to date with a lot of my content, smash that notification bell so that way you can. If you would like, you can also follow me over on Twitch. I do stream there pretty regularly, so you can come join me, hang out, let's have a good time, chat it up. If you have any questions, don't be scared to leave a comment down below here, or if you really want to, you can also message me over at Twitter. Thank you guys all for watching, and I hope to see you in game or in the next one.